Hi, I'm Brock Davidson. One of the things we like to do as we're testing is go back and revisit stock. Now, we are on our 93rd dyno run on the 2010 Z1000 Kawasaki. 93 runs doesn't really tell the story on Brian Isbell's bike here. Even though we made 93 dyno pulls, we've also put it through several map sessions just to develop mapping for our alien head exhaust. Now, as time progresses, you start with a beginning point, which is stock, but the weather changes, conditions change, and we've actually made some changes to the bike. When it first rolled in, we didn't know what kind of gas was in it. We didn't know where it came from. The bike actually sat here for quite some time, so you know the fuel could have lost a little bit of its strength. When we threw it up here the first time, it made 122 horsepower on the SAE scale. Well, we put it back to stock, put the stock exhaust back on, but we also made some changes. We pulled the oil out of it. We didn't know what it had in it. We put our Allison less than zero weight oil. We put our Petron additive in it. We ran it through there. The Petron additive has a tendency, it actually gets into the porosity of the metal. That doesn't come back out. That's something that stays in there. We also we like Shell 89 octane fuel. Over the years, we've noticed that that's a very consistent, good fuel. Pump gas out of the pump. Anybody in the country can get it. It makes good power. So we put it back up here to get a stock baseline, and the bike went up to 129 horsepower. It's not going to come back down. It's now in stock form. Our base is now 129 horsepower. So we're going to go ahead, put the alien head exhaust back on, put the map in that we developed, and see what kind of power that we've jumped up to compared to stock. So we have a good baseline versus our improvements to know exactly what the exhaust and power commander are good for. We'll be back here as quickly as we can change this pipe. Okay, got to tell you, for a modern day sport bike, the Z1000 is a very quick install. That took maybe a little over a half hour, and here we are. Went originally about 122 horsepower, like we were just mentioning, 129 horsepower after our oil, additive, and so forth. We threw the alien head exhaust on in our map, bumped up to 141 horsepower. Now if you look over here in the over rev area, compared to original 141, 121, that's a solid 20 horsepower gain at 10,300 RPM. Believe me, that's 20 horsepower you can feel when you ride this bike. It's an absolute hoot to ride around on the street. I gotta tell you, it's a bunch of fun. One of the things that people don't think about much, and one of the things that we really concentrate on between our exhaust and mapping, really is acceleration. I mean, I'm a drag racer. I love drag racing, and drag racing is about acceleration. Not just drag racing, really any kind of racing is about acceleration. And road racing, how you pull out of a corner, how long does it take? I want to show you something here that's really interesting. If we take this chart and we look at how long it took to accelerate, this blue line is completely stock. Well, if you look at this time, it was taking originally 5.6 seconds to make a full run in fourth gear. Well, that was with the other fuel, with the original oil that was in the bike. Once we put our oil in, it jumped only 5.3 seconds to make a run. Well, now with the exhaust, 4.7 seconds. So from 4.7 seconds to 5.7 seconds, a full second was trimmed off how long it takes to make a run. That's incredible. You pull a second off, that's only in fourth gear. Imagine what happens if you trim a second off every single shift. This bike is much quicker every single gear just from the changes that we've made. That's changing the oil. We put our additive in. We added the alien head exhaust. We added our map. We didn't crack one bolt on the engine. All of this is bolt on, and it just goes to show you what kind of gains can be made from typical bolt-on modification. So anyway, this is you know what's going on today. These are true, real numbers. I do want to do one more thing. We're going to add a highly oxygenated fuel to this just to see how much power we can get out of this thing, just for giggles. We'll be back here in a minute and show you what kind of changes that we made, just to show what you can bolt on and pour into the Z1000 to get absolutely as much out of it as you can without trying to get into the engine or make any serious mods. So we'll be back in just a minute. Well, I have to tell you, this has been a lot of fun. We just went ahead and threw in some oxygenated race fuel, and here at 10,400 RPM in the over-rev, compared to stock, we went from 121 horsepower up to 146. Now that's 25 horsepower gain. Now I don't want you to think that you're just going to bolt on the pipe and pick up 25 horsepower. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is, we put on the pipe, we installed the map into a Dynojet PC5, we changed the oil over to our Allison less than zero weight, put in our Petron additive, and the overall net gain was a 25 horsepower gain. Now, this whole time we've been speaking to you about SAE scale, which is the Society of Automotive Engineers. So if you come over here to the peak power range, we're looking at 122 up to 146. That was the 146 was with the MR12 fuel. Well, if you listen to other people speak about the dyno numbers of their Z1000, 122 up to 141 might seem a little low to you. Well, we're on the SAE scale. Usually people will use the STD scale when they're speaking about the bragging numbers of their bikes. So when we switch over to the STD scale, looks like completely stock, we got 124. I did a little internet searching. That's what most people say. It's somewhere in the 122, 124 range. That means just by putting on the pipe, changing the oil, with our map, we went to 144. Well, that's a really nice gain. We put in the crazy fuel, we broke 150. So anyway, that's a great gain. That's a lot of power. We're glad to have we're glad to have figured out the Z1000 here. It's a fun bike. I mean, we're talking about a nice serious gain. You know, 25 horsepower over this area. A dry shot of nitrous is usually 25 horsepower. Now you're not going to probably run around with MR12 on the street all the time, but even over here, 20 horsepower all the time, just by putting on the pipe, making these few changes. It really woke this thing up. So anyway, I'm Brock Davidson from Brock's Performance. The next step is getting Brian Isbell over here, let him take his bike for a ride and see what he thinks. So we'll be back with you before long.